The most political garden in America is still sowing controversy 1 year later. But nothing has caught her attention, or her ire, like the criticism last week of the White House rose garden by noted historian and author Michael Beschloss. Beschloss on August 7 tweeted his ongoing disgust at what he dubbed the evisceration by Trump of the most iconic garden in America. As with most things touched by the Trumps, the rose garden has become a political lightning rod. Its massive 2020 renovation, a project overseen by the former First Lady, was polarizing to a degree normally reserved for complex policy matters, not posies and sod. The reconstruction meant removing almost all of the garden's plants and trees and flowers, digging up an antiquated irrigation system and installing a new one, creating a more cohesive audio/visual apparatus, laying pavers for walkways and replanting just about every shrub and seedling from scratch. At the unveiling, 1 year ago this month, reviews split mostly down party lines, between those who felt the update was a tribute to Trump's glamorous aesthetic, and those who were certain the First Lady had taken shears to the garden's bounty to make wood chips for potpourri. Beschloss would fall under the latter category. At Beschloss.DC has proven his ignorance by showing a picture of the rose garden in its infancy. The rose garden is graced with a healthy and colorful blossoming of roses. His misleading information is dishonorable and he should never be trusted as a professional historian, the tweet stated. The spokesperson added that Trump's approach to the garden redesign was done after much research on its history, combined with the needs for the present. Politicizing this renovation further illustrates the media's bias against America.As. Trump was justified in pointing out that the photo Beschloss tweeted isn't exactly representative of how the garden looks now, nor how gardens work, according to a person familiar with the rose garden's renovation. This person, who like 3 other people interviewed for this story, requested anonymity in order to discuss Washington's most controversial plot of green space.
Another person involved in the planning of the renovation acknowledged that after was shocking and that the garden looked neutered. However, the necessity of the overhaul was agreed upon by multiple parties, chiefly the White House groundskeepers and then White House Chief Usher Timothy Harleth, as well as Trump. Decades of wear and tear and constant replacement of trees, bushes, and plantings to maintain a bountiful exterior had done irreversible damage, according to a 200-plus page report commissioned by the Committee for the Preservation of the White House. There was so much blight and disease and turnover of plantings that what Beschloss and everyone else thinks was the original garden that was destroyed by Melania hadn't been the original garden in literally decades, said this person, who worked closely with the National Park Service on the Rose Garden project. By the early 2000s, they were just huge. Too big for the space, said a White House senior staffer who is familiar with the removal of the trees. They were replaced with smaller ones, at least twice before last year. In 2019, for the Australia State dinner that was held outside in the Rose Garden, new crabapple trees were brought in, says this person, adding, no one was the wiser. However, there are still some who say Beschloss had a point in his critique. There was also a deadline to hit, one of the people involved with renovation acknowledges. Was giving her speech for the convention from the Rose Garden right after the unveiling, this person said. That said, even the roses that were planted for the unveiling and her speech aren't among the bushes flowering several feet high out, 1 year later.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.